Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SIL Legal Lounge podcast, Let's Talk Law. Today's session is especially designed for future law students who are unsure whether the University of London LLB Honours Program is the right path for them. To answer this question, I have invited two very competent and successful lawyers practicing here in Islamabad. And I'm also very proud to say that they were my students at the School of International Law. I would like to introduce our guests for today. We have Barrister Hafeez Shah, who is practicing in both Islamabad and Peshawar. Assalamu alaikum, Hafeez.
Assalamualaikum, ma'am. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for coming in today. And we are also joined by Advocate Maheen Zeeshan, who has her own
Advocate High
practice.
Court.
Advocate High Court Maheen Zeeshan, who is also practicing here in Islamabad, and she has also served as the judicial clerk of the Islamabad High Court. Hi, Maheen.
Assalamualaikum, ma'am. How are you?
I am well. And my name is Nida Tareen, and I am principal and co founder of the School of International Law, a recognized teaching center of the University of London International Programs. All right, so let's just dive into the very first question that a lot of students have, and that is कि अगर हमने पाकिस्तान में लॉ प्रैक्टिस करनी है तो हम यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ लंदन का प्रोग्राम क्यों करें? लेट्स स्टार्ट विद Maheen. What do you say?
I've done the University of London program myself, but I've also been practicing for a few years now. What I've seen is that the UOL degree, it's not just about the curriculum or the subjects that you study. The entire degree is structured in a way that it improves our analytical skills, it improves our critical thinking skills, the problem questions that we're supposed to solve, the set cases that were given for every exam. All of these things, they force us out of our student comfort zone where it's not just questions and answers. You are expected to actually apply the knowledge that you've learned on a problem. So those skills are what get you into the field. The legal field is all about how sharp your brain is, how analytical you are, how you can critically evaluate something, and how quickly you can understand something that you haven't been faced with before. Law never stays the same. Law is not something that stays stagnant. It is something that sort of organically grows. So you have to grow with it. The UOL degree, other than the subjects that we study, it gives us the skill set to navigate any sort of legal field, whether we've been a part of that legal field before or it's a completely new field altogether. I feel like the UOL degree really sort of helps form your brain into a lawyer's brain. You know, there's a difference between a layperson and a lawyer. So when you get through the degree, you actually start thinking like a lawyer. That's what the UOL program does.
Hafeez, I'll pose this question to you. So you completed your LLB honors and then you went to England for your bar at law. You're a barrister now. आपकी practice Islamabad में भी है, Peshawar में भी है. If you could go back in time, would you study the University of London LLB program or would you study, let's suppose, the local program? How do you think your decision affected your career?
Even if I would go back, I would still choose the same degree. And that was also the question I posed myself when I was taking admission in the bachelor's program over here. Because I was planning on doing my bachelor's in the UK, but eventually what I found out is the same degree is being offered over here. So why not we should go with this one? Just I'm going to build up on what Maheen said. The University of London's degree, it basically builds up on everything that is required by a lawyer in our legal field, because it mostly deals with the substantive part of law, where we read about contract law, tort law, criminal law. Rather than the procedure, we study about the content of it, how the law came into being, and we get a very in-depth knowledge of the law altogether, of the subject altogether. So when we come into practice, particularly in Pakistan, because we are built upon the British legal system. It is still over there. We are still following it to an extent. So when we come into the practice, just because we know what the content of the law is, so when we study the procedure in the first 6 months, 1 year of the of our practice, we eventually learn how we are going to excel in the field. That is a problem that is faced by the local universities, not by the University of London programs, but the local universities who only focus on the procedure and not the content of the law. So when they do come to practice, they only know about the procedure where they have the benefit over us. But after 1 year, we learn the procedure, and when we progress in our career, for example, if you become an advocate of the High Court, then a judge of the High Court does not look at the procedure. He looks at the law. He looks at the content of law, how you are going to interpret the law, how you are going to apply the law to your cases. That is something that is followed in the High Courts and not in the lower courts. So if you do not read about the content of the law, if you do not have the in-depth knowledge of the law, if you don't understand the substantive law, then it becomes very difficult for you to excel in your career later on in the profession.
So, another question would be, what about knowledge of the local law? So, if there is someone who wants to practice in Pakistan, they obviously need to know the local law. So, do University of London students have a disadvantage? Maheen, we'll start with you.
To be very honest, again, I went through it myself. We don't really have that big of a disadvantage because and this is something that I personally place priority on, you must have it within you. You must have that motivation within you to figure out whatever professional challenge you're faced with. When you graduate from the UOL degree, like I said before, and like Hafeez has also explained, your thinking abilities and your personal, let's say, professional abilities are sharpened to the level where even if you've never ever before heard of any sort of legal procedure in Pakistan, all you have to do is pick up that statute and you understand it because the UOL degree teaches you how to interpret law. It teaches you how it basically starts off with telling you the wisdom behind any sort of law,
So, a very
right?
honest question that I will ask the both of you at this point.
Yeah.
How long did it take the both of you to prepare for your test to receive your license? Because you had to study the local law in that. How long did it
Yeah,
take?
I had to give the law GAT and the C law. So I did not prepare for more than 4 hours. I think
Are you
I just
sure?
went through the
4 hours?
Hafiz. Actually, we were working in the same firm at the time, so he's witness to it. I
Steve, how
studied
long
for
did you
four
take?
hours.
How long did you take, Hafeez?
I took honestly 3 days to prepare for both the exams.
How would you say that as, an alumni member of the University of London program, how has their LLB honors program helped you or shaped you as the lawyer that you are today?
Ma'am, so the University of London's program basically set the foundation for my career. Even before I left for my bar, although that was pretty quick after I graduated from the University of London. But when I started practicing, when I was interning, while I was doing the program, the 3 years program in Pakistan, when we would go to for internships, when we would go to different places or offices, or when we would meet different people with legal backgrounds, it did help us a lot where we could engage the other person in a conversation because we had that deep knowledge of the law that the LLB honors program had given us, rather than the bare procedure law that you know because go through a Pakistani law college. But the understanding of the law, the deep knowledge of the law that is offered by the University of London's program, that makes you think about that makes you think on your feet when you're standing in the court. I think that is what helped me a lot in spearheading my career as compared to the others, my peers who came to me at the same time, who were from the local universities. They did take a good amount of time to reach that level, but our program, the University of London's program, did help me a lot when it came to this.
So, You're talking about all the skills that you acquired and how that helped you. Do you not think you would have acquired similar skills if you were studying some other law program?
I probably would not have, no,
Why?
because of I feel like the way that those curriculums are structured are very focused on just the text.
Okay.
Like, yes, you can memorize the entirety of the Civil Procedure Code. You can have every single section of the CRPC on your fingertips.
Yeah.
But if you do not know the wisdom behind every single civil right that has been provided to you under the CPC, or if you do not know the wisdom behind why the criminal procedure is structured the way it's structured, or the wisdom behind every single offense in the PPC, how you interpret the words in which that statute has been passed.
Hmm.
If you do not have this sort of background understanding, then you can't apply it easily to any sort of case. And this is true for whether you're a judicial law clerk or you're working on that side, or whether you're in court or you're representing a client in a case. In both these scenarios, if you do not have the background understanding, or like Hafeez said, the substantive understanding, and you've only learned the text, then you sort of fall behind, you know. Yes, you can put in the hard work and give it a month or 2 months, you can understand all of that. But the UOL program helps you because it's 3 years, or for graduate entries, 2 years. And in those 2 years, you are not only learning about the UK legal system or the European system, you're also learning international law, you're also learning jurisprudence, and through all that learning, you're building that background knowledge on what law is.
Future law students who are still thinking about coming into the profession. So, Hafeez, let's start with you. Any words of advice for future lawyers?
Yes, ma'am. My one advice would be to just show up every day because that matters. Even though at the end of the day, you would still feel like when you go back home, you have not learned anything or something new. But down the line, I think that is what I've personally felt as well after these 5, 6 years of practicing. Now, when I sit with people and have conversations, they're completely different. Even though I believe that I don't know anything, but when you are having some conversations with someone, or if you're sitting with people from the legal background or any other circle, that does help you because you showed up every single day, because although you are not required to, but you chose to, and that is what helps you a lot down the career as well.
So, consistency above all.
Yes, ma'am, consistency above all.
All right. Maheen, would you have any words of advice for future law students, future lawyers?
Uh, my advice would be focus on honing your personal skills and your personal critical and cognitive abilities. For a lawyer, it's their brain that is the most important. Everything else comes with time. The money, the client stability, everything will come with time.
So, Maheen, you're teaching jurisprudence currently. You're also teaching Pakistani law to University of London students here at School of International Law. So, why exactly do you think that class is going to be extremely important for students now?
Because even though we've talked about how amazingly beneficial the UOL program is, at the end of the day, if you want to practice in Pakistan, you have to know the law of the land. And the syllabus of the GAT that you have to study includes all of those very basic statutes and those procedure codes that this country functions on the basis of. So Pakistani law classes are obviously, it's not an examinable subject for UOL students. So there's, without that pressure of having exams, what I do is I focus on just educating them on the law of the land. So once they've graduated, they're not completely clueless. If they go to kacheri with a senior as an intern after graduation, they're not completely clueless. Or if they're faced with, let's say, if they have to talk to a client and ask them what their case is, they can still differentiate between whether it's a civil case or a criminal case, or if it's a company matter or if it's a rent issue. So those very basic things that will help you perform those basic tasks when you're starting out in your legal career.
Right.
Those things are what I focus on teaching my students in my Pakistani law classes. So any sort of disadvantage they might have by virtue of being UOL students, that is countered by these Pakistani law classes. So it's the best of both worlds.
So basically, they're studying UK law as well as Pakistani law with you, and
Yes,
that should be enough for them to be able to at least embark on their legal careers.
exactly. Yeah.
The actual test begins after you start practicing, after you get your license.
How would you say that employability ranks for University of London graduates versus any other university?
I feel like University of London graduates do have more opportunities in the sense that there's one opportunity could be with a law firm in legal practice. Some firms may prefer a UOL grad, some firms may prefer a local grad. That's a very arbitrary choice that each of those firms have, honestly. But apart from that, there are a lot of multinational companies, there are tax consultancies, there are companies that require in-house legal help. So, in all of those opportunities, I have seen UOL graduates place higher. Because at the end of the day, again, it boils down to your own personal merit. But I do feel like after the UOL degree, you are sort of more polished. So you do look more attractive to potential employers,
Okay.
especially if it's in the corporate realm.
All right. Hafiz, how about you? What would you say?
Ma'am, they are given more preference, be it a chamber practice, be it a law firm, or be it a company that you ultimately join, because of the skill set that they bring to the table. Even now, last year I held around 45 to 50 interviews, but ultimately we decided upon the students who were the University of London graduates because of the skill set that they were bringing. Although some of them were still studying, but still we had to opt for them because of the value that they were going to put to our work. So
So
at the
you
end of the
hired,
day,
sorry, you hired students. They were still students.
as an internees
Okay.
for our summer internship program, so they did. So I interviewed a lot of students, students who had also already graduated. But again, it all came down to like, what are you going to bring to the table? And I think that is something that the University of London students do have in them.
So both of you, you worked for a fair number of years, with your seniors, and now both of you are, that you're establishing your own practice. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Has already done that. I'm close to it. I'm in the process. Uh, yes.
So you have two University of London graduates who, a few years after graduating, are now, mashallah, setting up their own law firms.
Yes, ma'am,
That is
that is.
commendable. That is actually very commendable because you can only do that for those, who are watching, especially those of you who aren't in law school yet. Setting up your own law firm requires you to have a lot of clients in the first place, and having a lot of clients means that you have a lot of experience. So it is
Yes,
commendable
ma'am.
that both of you at a young age, you have managed to do this. Mashallah, that's wonderful. And I think that's a further testament to how well you have, used all the skills and, everything that you've learned from this program.
It's also a testament to the school that we studied in
Oh, of
Yes, ma'am,
course.
that is
Thank
and
you
the
so
great.
much.
faculty that we had.
That's lovely to hear. Very flattering. Thank you, Maheen. Never can hear enough of that. Okay, but thank you so much for being here today and taking out the time. And
Thank you, ma'am.
if anyone has any further questions that they would like us to ask our guests, please do send us an email at info@sil.edu.pk, and we will have a follow-up conversation with them very soon. I hope, right? You guys will be available.
Inshallah. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am,
Wonderful.
we will be available for
Wonderful.
that.
Thank you so much, and Allah Hafiz.